What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is me, myself, and a movie, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my review of Halloween Ends. But before I get into it, as always, if I can ask you to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button and that bell notification button so you don't miss any future Halloween or horror content. Before I get into the review, though, I do just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who watches my channel regularly. The channel's been pretty much dead for the past 2 months. I won't bore you with every little detail, but I went on a couple of holidays, a couple of vacations. I also had so many technical difficulties, and then I caught COVID. So there was just so many things, one after the other, that were happening, where it pretty much made uploading content impossible, really, especially when I had COVID. I did suffer quite a while with my throat, and it's very difficult to record content when you're coughing every 5 seconds. It's extremely irritating. So when you're creating content, your voice is obviously your main tool, and yeah, it was just impossible. But hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be coming at you every week with at least one video a week. And I am, of course, kicking that off today with my review of Halloween Ends. I just want to warn you, this will be full of spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, please go and watch the movie and then come back if you're interested in hearing my thoughts. And this will be just a brief review. I won't be going too deep. So if you think that I'm missing some points, I probably am. But I plan on doing a live stream where I can go a lot deeper into all the nitty-gritty details of the movie. So getting into what I liked about the movie, I have to start. Normally I would start a Halloween review with talking about Michael, but holy shit, I'm not. I'm starting my review by talking about other characters, which is very, very bizarre for me. But I have to start the review by talking about Corey Cunningham. Now, when I first heard of the addition of this character, I was just so confused why they would do this in the closing chapter of a trilogy. I didn't understand it. I was not a fan of the copycat concept. It just wasn't for me. If you follow me on Twitter or have watched some of my other videos leading up to Halloween Ends, you'll know that I was very, very vocal on the fact that I didn't like this idea. And I'm pleasantly surprised because I really, really enjoyed the character of Corey Cunningham. I also really enjoyed his relationship with Allison. I think it was a real representation of what two fucked up people can gravitate towards each other so quickly. And I do just want to say to a lot of people who have criticised how quickly they not fell in love, but sort of fell for each other, whatever word you want to put on it. A lot of people have criticised that, and I have to tell you, when you've been through grief, and I'm sure a lot of you listening have, especially when it's a partner, as Alison did with Cameron, not to mention her parents, her friends, she lost a hell of a lot, more than Laurie Strode at this point, I would argue. When you've gone through such a great deal of loss like that, believe it or not, you will gravitate to the first person that shows you attention. You will gravitate to the first person that you think is, who you like, who you are drawn to for whatever reason. It can happen unbelievably quick. And I know that from personal experience. And I think it is a very unfair criticism. And I think it is a criticism probably from people who have never gone through that sort of experience of losing a partner. Grief does crazy things to people. And sometimes you don't think rationally when you are going through grief. And I think it's actually a very realistic representation of that with the relationship of Corey and Allison. I was actually more invested and interested in their relationship in the beginning of this movie than I was about seeing Laurie or Michael. And I cannot believe I am sat here on my channel saying those words. I wasn't missing Michael or Laurie. I know we saw Laurie, at the beginning, of course, but I weren't really invested in her at the beginning. I was more focused on Corey and Allison. And I don't know. I'm shocked at myself for even saying that. Speaking of Laurie, I really, really love this version of Laurie Strode that we get. Again, I've seen a lot of criticism. Oh, she won't be like this 4 years after her daughter got killed. Well, how do you know? How do you know? But again, talking about grief, there's no timestamp on grief. There's no expiry date on grief. I think it's pretty believable that she thought, do you know what? He's took so much from me now. He's haunted my life for 44 years. Fuck Michael. Fuck everything. I I'm moving on. I have to move on for my own sanity. And again, I think it's believable. I know a lot of people don't, and that's your prerogative, that's your opinion. But I just think grief is a very strange thing, and there's no rule book on grief, and it's ridiculous to suggest that there is. I also loved seeing the relationship between Laurie and Hawkins develop. I did hope for more, to be honest. I did want them to be actually together in an established relationship. But we didn't get that. But it was still very, very cute to see them together. I mean, seriously, they were adorable. That little the scene in the store and the cherry blossoms. Oh, it was just so cute. I actually cried, and I cried a lot throughout this movie, to be honest. Now, the opening of this movie, it gives you one hell of a gut punch. I mean, holy shit, talk about an opening of a movie. And Michael wasn't even part of the opening, and that's just what makes it even more impactful, because it sets the tone for the rest of this movie and the direction that the movie is about to go in. When I saw that staircase, I knew straight away that something was going to happen with the staircase. I didn't know exactly what, but it was kind of predictable that something was going to happen on the stairs. And of course it did. When you see a death like that, especially a child death, it's going to hit you in a different place mentally. And I'm not even joking. Everybody in the cinema gasped. I was my hand was over my mouth. I was just so shook. I could not believe it, and it was pretty graphic as well. You see him hit the floor, and yeah, it was disturbing, uncomfortable, but fuck me, it was an opening of a movie. I really like how the townsfolk in this movie sort of turn against Corey Cunningham after the events of 2019 with Jeremy. Now, I think it is, again, a really good representation of how a community can never let go of an event that happened. Obviously, even all these years later, they're still trying to get over events of 2018, and they're looking for somebody to blame. And because of what happened in 2019, Corey Cunningham becomes that person to blame. You know, he becomes the person that they need. A monster. Michael's been gone for 4 years. They don't know where he is. They need somebody to blame. They want to play the blame game, and also they still demonize Laurie Strode. You see the return of Sonja, okay? Did I get that right? Sonja. And I was really, again, it was another moment where I was like, wow, you survived Halloween Kills. And I think it's believable. You know, she got stabbed in the neck. You know, I think she could have survived that. We've seen people survive worse. Hawkins. But anyway, it was nice to see her back, but she was in a very, very bad state in a wheelchair. She didn't even look very present. But I liked that character returning because it's a physical representation of what happened in Kills. It's somebody from Kills who Michael attacked, and she survived it. But I think it's her sister who is with her outside the store, and she blames Laurie. And that's the point I'm getting at. People are still blaming Laurie for the events of Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills. They see Laurie as this person who provoked Michael, and they see her as the person that encouraged him to come back, and therefore she's responsible for all of the chaos that ensued. So it is really a community here where they are looking for people to blame, and I think, again, that is a really, really good direction to take the movie in. The kills in this movie are great, and even Corey's kills are great. I'm shocked at myself saying this, but I weren't even that bothered when Corey was killing people. I weren't that bothered that it weren't Michael. I weren't even that bothered when he was in the full get-up, in the mask. I thought I would really be bothered, and I wasn't. I just wasn't, and I can't explain it. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought I really would. But the kills that we do get are great. The junkyard scene, the whole junkyard scene is fantastic. The DJ kill with the tongue, that is gruesome. Such great special effects by Christopher Nelson, as always. Speaking of the special effects, you cannot deny that this trilogy as a whole has had some of the special effects we've ever seen in the franchise. The whole vibe of the movie is great. It's definitely a different vibe than what we've seen in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. I think the vibe here is it's still a dark vibe. It's still that vibe of impending doom, and you know something's about to happen eventually. but it's kind of like an undertone of darkness. Like there's moments throughout where it's feeling positive, but there's still that undertone of darkness, and you know that it's not going to last long. The happiness isn't going to last long. The score and the soundtrack in this movie are great, of course, by the Carpenters, and we had other soundtracks in here as well. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I do apologise. But what we got, I really enjoyed. Now, my biggest positive about this movie, and I've saved it till last, well, second to last, the dialogue. The fucking dialogue is great in this movie. I haven't reviewed Halloween Kills yet, but just a little insight to my feelings on Halloween Kills. The dialogue in that movie is abysmal. It is trash. It is dog shit. I hate the dialogue in Halloween Kills. It is literally like every single line out of every single character's mouth is just, it's made for like a trailer or a marketing, a promotional clip. It's just awful dialogue. I was walking into Halloween Ends expecting the same. I even tweeted a few weeks ago saying I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to get the same shit dialogue. I couldn't have been more wrong. The dialogue in this movie is fantastic. It is realistic. It is believable. It's the dialogue that you're supposed to have in a movie where you're really believing what these people are saying. And my second big positive as well, the humour in this movie. There were no piss-poor attempts at humour like there was in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Both of those movies are guilty of having these attempts at humour in the most unnecessary moments of the movie. We have Halloween 2018 where Julian is funny, but then we get Vicky's death and the humour is prolonged and it's going through that whole scene. And it's like the tension just goes because they're trying to make you laugh with Julian while Vicky's getting killed. You have Halloween Kills where I just don't understand. I'm not even going to get into that. I'll get into that in my Halloween Kills review, but there's just attempt after attempt after attempt of humour that just fall flat on its face every single time for me. This movie doesn't have any, but I did laugh in some of the moments where I don't even think they were supposed to be funny, that like they weren't trying to make us laugh. And I laughed quite a few times throughout this movie. We obviously have the great line that everybody is loving on social media from Laurie Strode about getting your tits out to grief. Love it. My point is, it's not forced. It's not in unnecessary moments. It's not in the middle of moments that should be full of tension. They get it right in this movie. Now moving on to my mixed feelings about Halloween Ends. Now this is going to sound extremely morbid and I don't mean it to be, but I would have preferred Laurie Strode to die in this movie. Now, I know that probably makes me sound like an awful person, like how could you not love the happy ending? Well, I did like the happy ending. That's why it's in my mixed element, because we got the happy ending for Laurie, and that's nice. I think what they wanted to do is the whole Sidney Prescott sort of thing where you can't really kill this person because then everything they've been through, what is the point of everything they've been through for them to just die anyway? And I get that, and I'm okay with that. Again, that's why it's in my mixed. I can't say it's negative. But for me personally, I would have loved a definitive end for the character. I love Laurie Strode. I love Jamie Lee, of course I do. While we're on the subject of death, let's talk about Michael's death. But before we get into Michael's death, let's talk about the kitchen scene. Now, I was very underwhelmed when it came to the kitchen scene. What we got, I was happy with. I was satisfied with. It was a fucking awesome sequence of events. What happened, how Michael was stalking outside, then he came back in, he killed Corey. It was a great sequence of events that led up to the final showdown that we've been shown for months. But it did feel slightly underwhelming and it felt far too easy. And I'll get into Michael being weaker in a moment, but it felt like Laurie just overpowered him far too easily. And going back to Laurie dying, I would have preferred it if Michael and Laurie died together. And I was 100% sold on that happening. Like, if you watch some of my previous prediction videos, I was like 100% like Laurie and Michael are going to die together in some sort of poetic way. And I really wish that would have been the case. We got Michael's death, which I think was great in the fucking God knows what it was. I think it chews up parts of cars. But we got that. And by the way, let me just point out, I have said on many, many videos and many tweets and on the Lethal Collective live streams that the only way to kill Michael Myers, I did say a wood chipper, but I was close. I was close. But I knew he just had to be chewed the fuck up to stop him. Anyway, I digress. I would have actually really liked if she put him into the fucking whatever it was, and then he pulled her in with him. I think that would have been great. I think it would have been extremely shocking because we're right at the arse end of the movie. We're thinking that Laurie Strode is coming out victorious and on top. Michael's in the fucking blender, and then he pulls her in with him. I think it would have really, really shocked people. But that's just my personal thoughts, guys. I'm still glad that she survived, but if it was up to me, I would have had her die with Michael. Moving on to Michael. Now, if you are going into this movie expecting to see the Michael Myers we all know and love, expecting to see Halloween Kills Michael, Halloween 2018 Michael, then you are going to be very disappointed, extremely disappointed actually, because this isn't that Michael. We get a 4-year time gap where Michael is hidden in the sewers for 4 years, and he's basically rotting, he's deteriorating, and he's weaker than he usually is. And I would have liked to have seen him come out, stood strong like he was at the end of Halloween Kills, because that's my slight discrepancy with this. Because at the end of Halloween Kills, he was stood strong after he killed Karen. He didn't look affected by the beating that he just took. And then we get 4 years later where he's fucked up and he looks knackered. And logically, I just can't really kind of understand that. Because at the end of Kills, you're telling us that he's taken that beating and he's fine. And then 4 years later in Ends, you're telling us that he's extremely weak. However, I can't go completely negative on it. That's why it's in my mixed elements, because it's kind of it's more to that human element of Michael, isn't it? If we're going to say that he's human, then okay, he would be a bit beaten up. But I just wish we didn't get that image of him at the end of Kills where he stood strong and like he was unaffected. For you to then tell us that, okay, he's really took a beating and he's affected by it. I get that he's a 65-year-old man. I get all that. I'm not thick. But you can't give us mixed messages. 1 minute you're saying he's okay, he took a beating, he's fine. The next you're saying that he's not and he's deteriorating. So it's kind of like, make your mind up what you're going for here and what you're trying to tell your audience. And last for my mixed feelings on this movie is the overall story. Now, I feel like they kind of don't really know what story they're trying to tell here. This is definitely Corey Cunningham's story and Alison's story to an extent. And it's kind of like a love story, actually, at the beginning, at least. It's almost like they just didn't know what direction they really wanted to go in. It just feels like it doesn't really have its hands on the wheel. It's kind of going a bit all over the place in parts of the movie where you're like, okay, is this the story? Oh, no, you're trying to tell us that post. Oh, no, it's kind of confusing in parts. And last on my mixed feelings towards Halloween Ends is the transfer of power concept with Michael and Corey, where Michael and Corey first come face to face in the sewer and he grabs him by the throat. And now I perceive it as Michael either seeing evil in Corey or passing on his evil to Corey. It's still kind of convoluted what they were really going for. I don't think they actually spell it out, which I'm kind of glad, because we're asking questions and we're kind of wondering what the hell went on in that moment. But the way I perceive it is that he was passing on his evil to Corey. Therefore, he could be a host for Michael's evil. But to be honest, I could have done without that. I would have much preferred it if it was just as black and white as Corey Cunningham is obsessed with Michael Myers and he just wants to be Michael Myers, and it would be that simple. I would much prefer it if they went down that route. But saying that, what we did get, again, I didn't mind. So that's why it's in my mix. I didn't mind Corey going around killing people as Michael Myers, like I just said earlier. And I'm really shocked about a lot of the things that I've said in this review, because I really, really did not think I would enjoy the character at all. So moving into my negative feelings towards Halloween Ends, and I've only got a couple really, which I'm really happy about, because when I come to review Halloween Kills, I have more negatives than positives. So it's really nice to be sat here talking about a movie that I actually enjoyed. But of course, there are a couple of things here and there that I didn't enjoy, and let's get into them. So first and foremost, Lindsay Wallace, played by Kyle Richards. meh. I don't know what to say. She was about as useful as a fucking chocolate teacup. I don't consider Kyle Richards a talented actress. I think she's okay at best. She's not terrible, but she's certainly not. She's never going to be an Oscar winner. And she's certainly not a seasoned actress. She's much more of a reality star. I think she's literally just thrown in this movie for nostalgia vibes. Oh, she survived Halloween Kills. Yay! Job done. She has a few lines here and there. She's just useless in the movie. I do not see the purpose of her being there other than the value of nostalgia. The marketing of this movie, now, I don't know if I should really put this in my review because it's not about the movie itself, but the marketing of this movie, they did us dirty. They really, really did a shitty thing where they marketed this movie as Laurie Strode's and Michael Myers' final showdown. And don't get me wrong, we get it. Of course, we get it. But the whole movie is focused on a whole bunch of other stuff when you were telling us that it was going to be their final showdown and that's what this story was going for. And even though I like that bunch of other stuff, as I've just discussed, I still think it was a bit shitty of them to market this movie as if it was their movie, because this is not Laurie Strode's or Michael Myers' movie. You can say it is all you want. You'll never convince me. This is not their movie. I do wish we had more Michael kills, even though the kills that we did get from Corey Cunningham were great kills and effective kills. I really enjoyed them. I just wish we had more kills from Michael. Of course, we got the kind of the Bob kill, I'll call it, where he kills the redheaded girl and pins her up against the wall. Thought that was sick. Really enjoyed that. But I just wish we had more Michael kills. We didn't get many. I can't remember exactly how many now, but it wasn't many. So overall, my final thoughts, I enjoyed the movie. I'm surprised that I enjoyed the movie as much as I did. I went in with very, very low expectations to avoid disappointment because of my experience with Halloween Kills. I walked into Halloween Kills really excited, expecting it to be the best thing ever because I loved Halloween 2018 so much, and I was disappointed a lot. So I didn't want to go through that experience again. So I went in with very low expectations, and I really enjoyed the movie. I totally understand people's criticism with this movie. I get it. I get why a lot of people are pissed off. I think the determining factor of whether you're going to enjoy this movie or not is it all depends on how open-minded you can be. And I totally get that some people, what a Halloween movie is to them is Michael killing people and Michael being there throughout the whole movie, not side characters, not other people being introduced. And I totally get why the hell would you introduce these new characters in the closing chapter of a trilogy. I get it. You are well within your rights to be pissed off. But for me personally, it didn't bother me that much. And I really do actually think this whole concept would have been much better as the start of a Halloween series. Now, if you imagine that Laurie wasn't Laurie, Allison wasn't Allison, Hawkins wasn't Hawkins, imagine we didn't have any of the returning characters that we knew, and all the other characters were new apart from Michael. It would make for a great start in a Halloween series where it could explore that transition of evil. I think it would have been a great concept for a Halloween series, but we got it as a movie, and I get why people are pissed off. But for me personally, I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I enjoyed it. So with that being said, I'm going to score this movie a solid 3.5 out of 5. Before I wrap up the review though, guys, I do just want to say, please be respectful in the comments. Please don't be hateful. It's just a fucking movie. It's not, I've not killed your cat. If I've said anything that you disagree with, let me know. That's absolutely fine, but be respectful about it. If I like something that you disliked, or if I dislike something you liked, that's fine. That's the subjectivity of film. It would be fucking boring if we all liked the same things. Just be respectful, guys, because there's a lot of toxicity going around in the fan base at the moment. It's just unnecessary. It's not needed. It's a movie. It's not life-changing stuff, and I get that we're passionate. I'm passionate. I mean, for God's sake, that's why I started a channel. This Halloween Ends is the reason why me, myself, and a movie exists. So just be kind to each other, guys, and you don't know what people are going through behind the computer screen or behind their phone screen, so just be a bit thoughtful. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again for sticking around if you have watched my channel before and you are back here watching this video. As I said at the beginning of the review, I will be uploading once a week, maybe more. I'm just going to go with the flow and see what happens. I'm hoping to get some live streams planned with other content creators, maybe. I probably will do a Halloween Ends live stream in a couple of days, so do look out for that. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. And remember, guys, it's just a movie.